Your visit to Riga is related to participation in the Baltic International Bank conference. And what has attracted you to this event?
Well, you know what was interesting about the event is really the topic for me. I've spoken all over the world, many different countries, many different major events, usually about real estate and about business and entrepreneurship. Thank you very much. But this was a little bit unique because they wanted to talk about generational wealth, family businesses, and I think it's something that I can actually talk very intelligibly about, something that is obviously very important to myself and my family, but not really a topic that's often spoken about. So when it was presented to me, I was very fascinated by it because I thought it was very kind of progressive thinking. It wasn't just reactionary to the times, like now my kid's 35 years old, what do I do with them? So it was just an interesting topic, and again, probably the thing I can talk most about, but something that I've never had the opportunity to speak about. So it was really fascinating to me, and look forward to hopefully being able to impart some knowledge in an area where clearly there's a lot of wealth being generated. There's a lot of people now having children that are going to be taking over these companies and working in there, and I think it'd be an interesting thing to be able to impart some knowledge back.
Well, but last summer, Latvian press reported that Mr. Krutoi and Mr. Kozils had visited your office in New York, and that your company has interest in construction concert hall in Riga. Is it true?
We were talking, conversations. We went back and forth for a little while. Nothing went forward, but it's an area that we are interested in. I mean, we're doing a project right now in Georgia. My father was just over there. We're looking at another project in Baku. Not that it's the same area, but it's sort of similar in terms of the former relationships and the proximity to the Soviet Union and these sort of things. So, I think it's a part of the world that now you're starting to see some amazing architecture, some incredible real estate. You're seeing a real big boom in wealth. Obviously, in some of these more emerging markets, there's a great appreciation for brand and brand names, and I think for real estate and high-end luxury living as well as hotels. Obviously, we have something that's very relevant in that sector, and so it's definitely something that we'd be interested in looking at further.
Have you any other business plan in Latvia?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment, but like I said, usually these trips, while I'm speaking at a conference, I usually, it ends up being a great opportunity to network, to meet other people that are doing things both here and all over the world that, would be interested in collaborating. So for me, a big part of my job is just forming those friendships that often lead to partnerships.
You just told about your new project in Georgia, but we have never heard about any projects in Russia, but it's a big market. Maybe it should be interesting for such a businessman.
It is. I've been there many times, and I've spent quite a bit of time in Moscow looking at deals. A lot of that was before sort of the world changed, say 2005, 2006, 2007. By the time things started looking like they were going to happen, obviously the world sort of readjusted and changed, but that interest is starting to pick back up as the development world and as the real estate market start to pick back up and sales start to happen again. So, that will go, back on the forefront. But I think, for the last few years to start from scratch in some of those markets, again, for us, I want to make sure we pick something that makes sense. We pick a winner. We don't want to have a sort of a false start in a given market. I would rather wait and do it when it makes the most sense, and I think that's starting to get good again.
And what would you do in Russia? What kind of project?
It depends. I mean, the things that I've looked at thus far, I've looked at everything from resort to hotel. I was there last summer looking at a potential golf development because that's a big part of what we do also, high-end golf courses and championship type golf courses. A big part of what we do now is the hotel world, so we're building, managing, branding high-end hotel assets. So I think any of those things would be possibilities.
And your mom is from Czech Republic?
That's correct.
Do you have any projects or any plans for Czech Republic?
We don't in Czech, and I'd love to have something there. I speak the language fluently. Mluvím česky perfektně, víš, tak I speak the language fluently. I used to spend about 6 weeks to 2 months every summer growing up, back in what was then, communist Czechoslovakia from 1980 on with my grandfather. He was, blue collar, I don't know what the word is here, but, normal guy, Czech Republic, and he saw the lifestyle that we led in the U.S. with my family and sort of the building and the wealth and he wanted to make sure that I was the oldest son, and he wanted to make sure that we experienced perhaps a little bit more of the reality of the world. And so I had it was an amazing experience. I think it was really helpful even for business in that I learned that the things and the benefits and the things that I got to experience in my family in the United States with the wealth that we had, that wasn't the norm. That wasn't normal, and to not take things for granted and to work hard for everything, it really put things into a very good perspective in terms of understanding the value of the dollar. I'll probably touch on that a little bit even tomorrow in my speech.
Okay, but still you don't have projects in Czech.
No, we haven't. We haven't done
Why?
anything there. Again, for us, one of the things that we have to do with the brand that my father's created over 30 years, it's a very ultra luxury brand. So could I have done projects in any of those markets? Yes. Would they have been the best in that market? I don't know. So for me, it's about making sure we get the best location, the best partner in that market. Are building the best hotel, the best structure, the best residential building, whatever it may be. So unfortunately, I see a lot of good deals that may make economic sense every week, but they're not really Trump deals. Meaning you wouldn't think of it as a Trump building. And so we have to be very careful how we play with that. Obviously, the name and the brand is a big part of the value of the company. The assets and the buildings are obviously very valuable, but for the next generation and for the future, preserving the brand that's been created and the value thereof is really perhaps one of the biggest annuities we can have. So we have to be very selective about what we choose to do.
And in that sense, you think that Georgia is a good place for such a brand?
I think so. I mean, what we're doing there is a very high-end building, small unit count. Obviously, it's a big feeder market to a lot of wealthy areas that are nearby. We have another project going on in Istanbul and Turkey that, all sort of feeder markets to there. And so when you see what's going on, my father travels a lot as well. And when he goes there and it's like, wow, is just very impressed with the things that are going on, I think it makes sense. So it's been looked upon very favorably in those markets. So I think so.
Okay, and as we understand, you are building also condo hotels, and there is no such thing in Eastern Europe at this moment. Well, at least it's not so much popular. Can you tell what is it, and why do you think it isn't popular in Eastern Europe?
Well, the condo hotel, we almost sort of invented it in the mid-90s. We did a redevelopment of One Central Park West, which is our Trump International Hotel and Tower overlooking the park. I'm sure a lot of your viewers or readers have stayed there because it's one of the best hotels in New York City. And when we were doing the redevelopment of that into a condominium building from a commercial building, changing the use, New York zoning required that you chop off the top 15 floors of the building or it had to remain commercial. Now, you didn't want to have an office building with residences above it. Didn't work as well given the layouts of the building. So we said, well, why don't we take the individual units, we'll make them like condominiums, we'll run it like a hotel, but you can buy one of the units. When you use it, you use it. When you don't use it, you own the cash flow associated with. It's like owning, for you if you're a buyer, it's like owning a one-unit hotel. Then, as it became, sort of a good way to finance a hotel, it was very difficult to do the kind of build-outs and stuff like that, given sort of the longer-term payout of a hotel, conventional hotel model, that it became a good way to finance a hotel because you're selling it like a condominium, you're getting a lot of that generation today in terms of the payment, so you can build a building around it. But you then secure the long-term management contracts and these kind of things. The model worked very well for a long time in the US, but I think over time, too many other developers basically started getting the idea of, well, it doesn't really work as a hotel. We have an average site. It's not really a great location. It doesn't really work as a condominium. So let's do this, and we'll create this new model of hotel condo and try to do it everywhere. And so it sort of overpopulated the market with that kind of product, and so it lost a lot of favor. Some places it's not as easy to do because of leasing or various zoning requirements, but I think it's a model that's very viable in the right markets, in markets that make sense with the right product. When everyone tries to do it simply as a way to finance a project that wouldn't otherwise be financeable, it makes it sort of difficult and gives sort of the model a bad reputation. So it was good for a while. When the world changed in 2006 and 2007, sort of no longer penciled economically because people are saying, well, I can't pay this much for real estate and only have this much on the cash flow model. So it's changed, but like everything else, it goes in cycles, right? So I'm sure that will come back again.
Will it come to Eastern Europe?
It may. It depends on the markets. I'm sure people will do it there. I know people have presented us projects, to look at that utilize that concept. But again, I think over the last few years, we opted to play it safe rather than take some of those chances, and I think we made the right decision with that.